There is an enemy more dangerous than bombs, bullets, or corrupt rulers. It doesn't march into our cities or announce itself in our psychological landscape. It doesn't carry a flag, wear a uniform, or make itself obvious. It lives inside of us. Every civilization that collapsed, every tyranny that rose, every mass tragedy that scarred history, was made possible not only by leaders or armies, but by something far more intimate: the weakness of the human mind. Not the intelligence, not the creativity, not the brilliance of thought, but the blind spots, the cracks in our psychology that quietly distort reality, bend our judgment, and slowly hand over our freedom without us realizing. We imagine that the greatest dangers to our lives are external: the government, the elites, the corporations, the media. And yes, all of these play their part. But what if the most dangerous threat to your freedom is not outside at all? What if the deadliest enemy of your mind is your mind itself? It whispers to you every day. It disguises itself as comfort, certainty, and relief. Psychological forces you to believe that what you want to hear is the truth, that what feels safe must be right, and that questioning too deeply is unnecessary. This is not paranoia. This is history. The story of humanity is not only the story of progress and triumph, it is the story of how entire nations, entire generations, surrendered to this inner weakness. The question is not whether this trait exists within you. It does. The real question is, will you recognize it before it consumes you? Because if you don't, then one day you may wake up to realize that the prison you live in was built not by others, but by your own psychology. History does not whisper. It screams. Every collapse of civilization, every rise of tyranny, every mass tragedy we look back on with horror, began not with chains, but with thoughts. When Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany, it wasn't brute force that won over millions of people. It was psychology. A nation broken by war and economic despair craved certainty, clarity, and order. And Hitler gave it to them. He offered not complexity, not nuance, but simple, intoxicating answers. Enemies were named. Scapegoats were created. The illusion of certainty was given, and millions surrendered their critical minds for the comfort of belonging. Stalinist Russia tells a similar story. Fear and suspicion became weapons. People accepted false trials, false confessions, and even the execution of their neighbors, because uncertainty felt unbearable. Better to cling to the narrative than to confront the terrifying truth. Mao's China pushed this even further. In the Cultural Revolution, entire communities turned against each other. Friends denounced friends, children betrayed parents, all under the belief that they were serving a higher truth. What they were really serving was their desperate need for psychological stability in a chaotic world. And it is not only empires and nations. Consider Jonestown in 1978. Nearly 1,000 people willingly drank poison at the command of their leader. To outsiders, it looked insane. But inside that cult, it felt safe. It felt certain. It felt right. In every one of these cases, the people did not think they were surrendering their minds. They thought they were protecting themselves. They believed they were choosing security, clarity, and truth. But in reality, they were falling prey to the most dangerous psychological trait of all: the need for comfort at any cost. And here is the chilling realization: the same weakness that destroyed nations, empowered dictators, and fueled tragedies has not disappeared. It has not been eradicated by education or progress. It lives on, in you, in me, in all of us. The past not only lives in textbooks, it breathes inside our psychology, which means the same story could repeat itself, under new names with new faces and new technologies. The enemy within is not a relic of the past. It is the silent passenger of the present. If history shows us the patterns, psychology reveals the mechanism. The dangerous trait at the heart of human weakness is not malice, nor greed, nor even ignorance. It is something far more subtle and far more seductive. It is the craving for cognitive comfort, the deep, instinctive desire to escape uncertainty, to flee from complexity, to cling to whatever gives us a sense of certainty and control. Psychologists call it the need for cognitive closure. In simple terms, it means we hate not knowing. We hate confusion. We hate ambiguity. When the world feels too overwhelming, we grasp at easy answers, even if those answers are lies. And this is what makes the trait so dangerous. Because once comfort takes priority over truth, we stop thinking, we stop questioning, we stop seeing. Think about it. Why do so many people fall into conspiracy theories? Because they offer certainty. The world may be complicated, but a conspiracy gives a simple villain, a simple story, a simple reason. Why do people ignore inconvenient facts? Because they create discomfort. Why do crowds blindly follow charismatic leaders? Because a leader provides the illusion of clarity, of direction, of safety. The tragedy is that this weakness doesn't only belong to others. It isn't just uneducated masses, cult members, or people from history books. It lives in all of us. You feel it every time you close your eyes to a painful truth. Every time you pretend something is fine because confronting it would be too hard. Every time you choose a comforting illusion over a difficult reality. And so, the real battlefield is not in parliaments or media outlets, but in the human mind itself. The war is fought between truth and comfort, between clarity and illusion, and, make no mistake, history shows that when humanity chooses comfort, disaster always follows. But why is this weakness so persistent? Why does it exist at all? Why do we keep falling into the same trap, century after century, generation after generation? To understand that, we have to go deeper, into the very wiring of the human brain. The human brain is a survival machine. For millions of years, it evolved not to seek truth, but to seek safety. Truth, after all, is often slow, complex, and uncomfortable. Safety is immediate. Safety is simple. When our ancestors heard a rustle in the bushes, their survival didn't depend on conducting a careful investigation. It depended on assuming the worst, a predator is near, and reacting instantly. The mind is wired to prioritize certainty, even if that certainty is false. This ancient wiring still rules us today. Ambiguity triggers stress. Uncertainty feels like danger. And so, our brains shortcut the process. We create stories, patterns, and illusions that reduce the anxiety of not knowing. Psychologists call this tendency confirmation bias, our instinct to seek out information that validates what we already believe, and to ignore anything that contradicts it. They call it cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort we feel when reality clashes with our beliefs, pushing us to bend reality rather than change our views. They call it motivated reasoning, our talent for twisting logic so that it delivers the conclusions we want rather than the true ones. These biases aren't flaws in a broken system. They are the system. They exist because, for much of human history, illusions kept us alive. But in the modern world, these same mechanisms can enslave us. Think of a society in crisis, economic collapse, social unrest, fear in the air, in such a storm. The human brain longs for a single clear voice, a promise of order, a vision of certainty. And when a leader provides it, people obey. Not because the promise is rational, but because it is psychologically irresistible. Think of an individual in despair. Life feels meaningless, chaotic, and overwhelming. A simple ideology, a conspiracy theory, a religious cult. These become lifelines. They offer structure, clarity, and a sense of control. Whether true or false, it no longer matters. What matters is that they soothe the unbearable weight of uncertainty. Even entire generations can fall under the spell. When the future feels uncertain, people don't just demand solutions, they demand illusions. And illusions are always for sale. This is why our craving for comfort is not merely personal weakness. It is a biological design, a survival instinct. But survival instincts, when exploited, can become chains. The danger is clear. The same mechanism that once kept us safe now makes us vulnerable. The same instinct that once protected our ancestors now leaves us open to manipulation, propaganda, and control. And in today's world, with technology, corporations and governments wielding unprecedented power. This ancient weakness has become their greatest weapon. If history reveals the dangers and psychology explains the mechanism, then the modern world shows us the perfected weapon. For the craving of cognitive comfort, this weakness that lives in every human mind has not gone unnoticed. It has been studied, engineered, monetized, weaponized. Today, governments, corporations, and algorithms don't simply know that we seek comfort over truth. They rely on it. They profit from it. They build entire systems around it. Consider social media. On the surface, it looks like a tool for connection, communication, and freedom of expression. But underneath, it is a psychological trap. Algorithms are designed to feed you what you already believe, what already feels safe, what already confirms your worldview. This isn't generosity, it's manipulation. Because every moment you feel comfort in your feed, you stay longer, you scroll more, you click again, and your attention is sold to the highest bidder. Now think of politics. In times of division, uncertainty, or chaos, politicians know better than to offer nuance or complexity. Instead, they give you certainty in the form of slogans. Simple words that flatten the world into binaries. Us versus them, good versus evil, right versus wrong. It doesn't matter if these slogans distort reality. What matters is that they give you comfort. They soothe the anxiety of ambiguity. And with that comfort comes obedience. Then there is the media. In an age of information, we do not drown in truth. We drown in narratives. Outrage headlines, clickbait, and carefully chosen language pull us not toward clarity, but toward whatever story feels most emotionally satisfying. And because the human brain craves certainty, we fall willingly into echo chambers. We stop questioning, we stop comparing, we stop thinking. Even technology itself has joined the game. Deepfakes blur the line between truth and fiction. Artificial intelligence can generate illusions so convincing that soon we may not know the difference between what is real and what is manufactured. And when the line between reality and illusion collapses, what remains is not truth, but control. This is how the need for cognitive comfort becomes a weapon. It is no longer just a quirk of human psychology. It is a business model. It is a strategy of governance. It is the new battlefield of power. And the most chilling part is this: no one forces us into it. We walk into it willingly. We choose the illusion because it feels easier. We choose the lie because it feels safer. We choose the echo chamber because it feels more familiar. In exchange for psychological comfort, we hand over our attention, our autonomy, our freedom. We become pawns, not because someone took our power, but because we gave it away. This is why the threat is so insidious. You will not feel chains around your wrists or see bars around your home. The prison is invisible. The bars are built from your own choices, and yet there is still hope. While this trait is powerful, it is not absolute. It can be recognized, it can be resisted, it can be overcome. But resistance begins not with society, not with governments, not with algorithms. It begins with you. If the enemy is inside us, then the battlefield is the mind. And if governments and corporations weaponize our craving for comfort, the first act of rebellion is simple: awareness. Awareness is a kind of light. Once you see how your mind craves certainty, how it clings to illusions, how it recoils from discomfort, you begin to weaken its grip. The spell starts to break, but awareness alone is not enough. Resistance demands practice. It requires training the mind to endure what it instinctively wants to escape. Philosophers have spoken of this. For centuries, the Stoics urged us to embrace discomfort, to sit with uncertainty, to welcome pain as a teacher rather than flee from it. Nietzsche challenged us with amor fati, the radical idea of loving our fate, no matter how difficult, instead of hiding from it. Jung warned that unless we confront our own shadow, the truths we would rather not face, we remain its prisoner. To escape the trap, we must practice what the world fears most: living with ambiguity, asking questions instead of rushing to answers, holding contradictions instead of reducing them to black and white, allowing reality to remain complex, messy, and uncertain. and refusing the cheap seduction of illusions. On a personal level, this means catching yourself in the small moments. When you scroll your feed, notice when you only click what you already agree with. When you argue, ask if you are seeking truth or only seeking victory. When reality challenges your beliefs, resist the urge to bend them. Let it stretch you. Instead, this is not easy. The craving for cognitive comfort is wired into us. But every time you choose truth over illusion, discomfort over ease, questioning over blind acceptance, you strengthen your mind. And in that act of strengthening, you reclaim what the world is constantly trying to take from you: freedom. But what about beyond the individual? What happens when millions of people choose comfort over truth at the same time? That question leads us back to history and to the precipice where societies themselves either rise or collapse. The choices of individuals may seem small, almost invisible, but when multiplied across millions of minds, they shape the destiny of entire civilizations. History makes this clear. When enough people surrendered to the illusion of comfort, entire nations fell into the hands of tyrants. When fear of uncertainty outweighed the courage to confront truth, societies traded freedom for order, individuality for conformity, reality for illusion. Rome, once the most powerful empire on earth, collapsed not only from external invasions, but from internal decay, a people more concerned with bread and spectacle than with truth and responsibility. In the 20th century, nations that embraced comforting lies over harsh realities walked willingly into dictatorships, mass surveillance, and genocide. But history also tells another story. Societies that resisted this trait, that chose truth over illusion, complexity over simplicity, freedom over false security, became the engines of progress. They questioned, they doubted, they tolerated discomfort. And in doing so, they advanced art, science, philosophy, and human dignity. Which brings us to today. We are again at a crossroads. Technology has amplified both the opportunities for truth and the temptations of illusion. Never before has information been so accessible, yet never before has deception been so seductive. The collective choice we now face is stark. Do we surrender to comfort, letting algorithms, governments, and corporations think for us? Or do we reclaim our responsibility to think for ourselves, even when it hurts? If too many choose comfort, the future will not be free. It will be a carefully curated illusion, delivered to us with perfect precision, while our critical minds sleep. But if enough choose discomfort, if enough choose truth, society has a chance to resist, to grow, to evolve. The future is not decided by the powerful alone. It is decided by the countless small choices of ordinary minds. And each choice, however small, tips the balance, which leaves one final question. What choice will you make? The most dangerous enemy is not outside. It is not the politicians, the corporations, the media, or even the algorithms. The most dangerous enemy is within, the part of us that hungers for comfort more than truth. Every time you accept the easy answer, every time you silence the question that unsettles you, every time you cling to certainty instead of enduring doubt, you surrender a piece of your freedom. No tyrant needs to chain your body when your own mind has already chosen submission. History has shown us where this path leads: collapse, control, catastrophe. But history also shows that the alternative is possible. Minds that resist illusion, that endure discomfort, that stay awake when the world drifts into sleep. These minds shape the future. So the warning is simple: stay alert. Do not confuse comfort with truth. Do not mistake certainty for reality. Do not hand your freedom to the enemy within. The prison is always built first in the mind, and the only way out is to see it before it closes. Stay alert.